go ahead and introduce the speaker for the day, Vivek Joshi. Vivek is a CEO and founder of Entytle with decades of experience working on both sides of the industrial equation. He's passionate about all things install base and simplifying install base workflows to give customer-facing OEM teams an opportunity to do more with less. He's also the founder of the Aftermarket Champions community, which used to be called Industry Next Community, and it's designed to help industrial leaders share and learn from each other. So with that, I'll hand this over to Vivek.
DJ, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And good morning, like I said, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody here. We're excited to always have people on board joining us for these webinars. And this series that we started a few months ago, was really meant to start showcasing different problems or different questions that our customers are trying to answer. And in today's episode, what we're going to do is really try to talk about how there's a need for automation, if you think about it, in the context of discovering, prospecting, and selling to your install base. And so the session today will be a bit of presentation in terms of me explaining to you the kind of problems we solve, and then maybe a 5-10 minute demo of the capabilities of the platform, the install base intelligence platform that we built. So as DJ said, it's going to be a runtime of about 20 minutes. There'll be some time for Q&A after that. And please feel free to ask us questions as we go along in the Q&A box. And my colleague, either DJ or JW, will pick up the question and queue them up for answering later on today. So, we've been through an interesting period starting in March 2020 with COVID and everything that happened around it. The fact of the matter is that we've now got to a certain state of normalcy or abnormalcy, if you may, in terms of growth. There's a lot of pent-up demand that was satisfied during COVID. Now things are settling down, and it's very clear in talking to all of our industrial customers that they're all about, as the trite phrase goes, is doing more with less, right? It's absolutely important. The other thing that's beginning to start really resonating with people is that the talent shortages, the skilled labor shortages people are seeing across the range of jobs is a big deal, is a real deal. And as a result, companies are beginning to start paying major attention to automation as in how to reduce and minimize human intervention, if you may, through the process, because when you reduce that, you can theoretically do more with the people you have, more with less, right? And then the vision really becomes about how do you take this thing and kind of automate the aftermarket, which is really something specific to what we are trying to do out here. So I mentioned this in my previous slide, in my previous summary, which is, look, this whole notion of silver tsunami that's going on in the world is a big deal. There's tons of people retiring in the next 3-4 years. I think there's some statistics we saw recently that said probably in the next 4 years, there's about 25% of the manufacturing workforce is going to retire, which is like frighteningly large. And when you start pairing that with the fact that it's really hard to acquire new employees or recruit new employees, it just becomes a major gap that manufacturers are dealing with. And by the way, this is universal, not just in the US, but even in the EU. We also have a lot of customers in Europe who tell us the same thing. So people need to kind of start to figure out how to take this smaller workforce and do more with it. And then obviously the technology that people have got invested in is really not adequate as well, right? To kind of make these changes happen, to make the transitions happen. You pair that or you couple that with some of the customer side things, right? You look the same way you have retirements happening and new generation of people coming in who don't have the depth of knowledge. The same thing is happening on the other side, except we've all got used to a certain app economy, consumer economy, where I press a button, things show up at the door. The expectations are changing across the board in B2B as well. At the same time, rising interest rates have put on some pretty major pressure on CapEx. We're seeing that across the board. Almost every one of our customers has told us in the last 6 months, yes, they've seen a slowdown in the equipment sales, but conversely, the aftermarket sales are going up to compensate for that. And again, by the way, your customers are doing the same thing as you are, which is try to do more with less. So this is like a universal phenomenon. So the question becomes then, you're going to start getting growth from installed base if there's no equipment sales. You're going to start bringing installed base aftermarket value proposition. So how can you do this thing? What can you do with it, right? So we've built this little matrix out there that shows the different kinds of use cases that are possible, the different kinds of ways to prospect an install base. Your salespeople, your marketing people, your service people, and even business leaders. I was on a call literally about 5 minutes ago that just got done right before this webinar. And it was a large capital asset equipment company, if you may, that sold substantially large assets. And they wanted to find a way to systematically prospect in the installed base to do inspections. Now, inspections are a core part of a equipment maker's arsenal because it does two things. One is ensure compliance, but also allow you to create new service opportunities. So in this case, they're going to send service technicians out to start doing inspections. They get paid a pretty hefty sum of money. But the core problem was, Vivek, how do I automate this stuff? I got a lot of information in spreadsheets in my field service system, in ERP, and Lord knows PDFs all over the place. How can I make sense of that, right? So that's a kind of example for, that happens in the real world today as well. And so what we find out is that this notion of proactive growth, volume growth is really hard. So if you think about the conversation I just referenced, this company was trying to figure out how do you grow the volume of inspections. Today, they respond to RFQs. Today, they respond to inbound inquiries. Tomorrow, they want to start getting proactive. And so proactive volume growth is really hard. It sounds easy in practice, but it's really hard. How do you identify market share opportunities, which means in your install base, who are the people you've not touched yet, right? For the people you've touched, how do you get more wallet share, which is how do you sell them more products and parts and services, right? In this case, this equipment company has multiple different inspection types. They want to be able to sell more inspection types, so shrink the interval between inspections by providing different regulatory inspections, compliance inspections, and so on and so forth, right? So what can you cross-sell and, increase the volume, if you may, with that? And the last part is really the hard part is how do you make that same customer come back to you again and again, or conversely buy from you again and again, the repeat customer problem, right? All this sounds really simple in theory, but it's really hard to do on a practical day-to-day basis. Because the thing we see time and time again, which is amazing, is even today, people have a hard time answering three questions. Where's my stuff? Where the heck is my install base? What happened to it, right? Install base isn't just a list, numerical list of all the installations you have out there, all the equipment you have out there. It's all the history that happened to that equipment. How many parts were replaced? What services were performed? Did they have tech support calls? Did they have field support calls? All those things matter because once you understand that behavior across not just this one customer, but across all the thousands of customers, then you can start figuring out what do you need to do with it, right? So the aftermarket and service is all about what do you do next with it in terms of service and repair or parts, and being able to pull all this information together is hard. And these questions at the surface level sound very simple, but it's really, really hard to do. And it's really hard to do, and then people start doing what you just see on this silly, complicated flow chart, right? Most of the people we work with, in fact, even the same prospect call we had a few minutes ago, they're trying to literally get 5 people in a room and assemble this data by hand. They're trying to catalog the data. They're trying to figure out where all this data sits together. They're trying to extract information from spreadsheets and PDFs and put it into one database. And once they get the database, they're realizing all the data is dirty, right? Things aren't classified correctly, addresses are wrong, part descriptions are wrong, equipment descriptions are wrong. So once they pull it all together, then they can start doing this analysis process. It's an extraordinarily tedious and painful and time-consuming and labor-intensive process, right? It takes, I'm not kidding, it takes multi-years to get to this point where we can start seeing return on investment. This is not a knock on the do-it-yourself approach, but the fact is that it just takes extraordinary amounts of time and money to get to the point where ROI becomes low, right? So what do you do about it? Well, the problem is the reason it takes so long is the spaghetti chart you see today is literally what everybody's data landscape looks like today. Every one of my customers has multiple ERP systems. They have maybe 1 or 2 different field service systems, depending on divisions. They definitely have one CRM, sometimes more. Again, depends on which divisions we transition to Salesforce or Dynamics or something else. And they have all kinds of siloed databases. We still see Access databases today. We still see spreadsheets every day. We saw Lotus Notes database recently, right? So there's a whole variety of different things out there. And candidly, people have not put this together, right? So the ability to assemble this stuff is really compromised. And without assembling this information, you can't answer these 3 questions you talked about. If you can't answer these 3 questions, you certainly can't be proactive about growing volume in your install base. So that's kind of sets the problem up, if you may. And so what we built is an install-based intelligence platform to exactly solve this problem, right? This is not a new problem. This is not a singular problem with one company. This is an everyday problem with all the customers we see and every single manufacturer in the world that we talk to today. So we built this thing we call an install-based intelligence platform. It is purpose-built for original equipment manufacturers. And that's important to say the words purpose-built because there's so many nuances in terms of what data do you need to get, how that data looks like, how do you handle it, and how do you manage it, that without that ability to kind of build that purpose-built data model and the purpose-built analytics to discover things like part replacement rates and service intervals on what part goes with service or what part goes with which other part. Building all those algorithms are really hard if you don't kind of answer these questions in a very specific manner. So that's kind of what we've built over the last many years. And we're excited to say that this is the kind of demo I'm going to show you today. How does this screenshot that I showed you, how does it manifest itself in real life, right? So that's what I'm going to show you in a second. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing this particular screen and switch to another screen in terms of the demo. So I showed you a screenshot a few seconds about Entytle Insights. The demo that we are going to show is a fictional company called Acme Inc. You see that in the left-hand corner, which says Acme Inc. out here. This is the name of the company. And what I'm about to show you are trying to answer specific questions that our customers ask us, that they tell us they struggle with, and things that customers want to do. So one of the great parts about software as a service and everything running in the cloud, that we can instrument the software for every single one of our customers and see how our customers and our customers' users are behaving, if you may, in the application. And we find that our customers have three different uses that they start with right off the bat in terms of what they're trying to do. First and foremost, they're trying to research a customer. Secondly, when they research a customer, they're trying to really understand the lay of the land, if you may, within an account. And thirdly, when they look at that lay of the land, they can try to specifically hone in on a set of automated opportunities, right? So what I'm going to show you is exactly those three things. How people look for customers, how they understand what the lay of the land is within the customer, which is, where's my install base and what happened to it? And the third thing I'm going to show you, what do they do about it? This application, by the way, is a completely cloud-based Amazon Web Services-based application. And the people who tend to use it are typically 3 to 5 personas. I showed that in the use case chart, but it's salespeople, both inside and outside. It's service people in the field. It's the marketing people who are trying to run marketing campaigns after the install base. It could be product managers who are trying to understand what's going on with the products that they've sold over the years in terms of developing new modifications, upgrades, or whatever it might be. And the final category is executives who want to take a look at this install base to see how the progression is going on in terms of their ability to grow volume, right? So those are the kinds of people who use this application software today. This application software is also integratable into your commonly used CRMs, as well as commonly used field service management systems, because those are the primary use cases. We are also going to build an integration to marketing automation systems, because it's easy with one click button to send all this information to drive campaigns that we referenced a few minutes ago. So how do customers look for information today using a platform? How do you do account research? Well, there's two different ways to do it. One is to take a look at this install base map that you see out here in a second, right? We've got a visual metaphor, the map metaphor. It turns out lots of people, in fact, most people that we work with are visual people, right? And they want to see on one single map where my install base is and what goes on. Today, in this demo account, I'm a national sales manager, so I see everything in the customer base. So you see I have 9,000 customer locations and about 9,100 assets in the field. And if I were to start looking at things, I can say, you know what, I'm going to take a look at just some customers. Actually, I'm going to go to customers. I'm going to go to the state of Louisiana, right? I'm going to Louisiana and take a look at all my install base in Louisiana. So we will see that customers wind up doing the search out here. Then they may say, you know what, I'm going to go to the city in this particular place. I'm going to go to Laplace, Louisiana. Sorry, I'm going to spell this incorrectly. I'll go to Laplace. Right? I'm going to go to Laplace, Louisiana. I'm going to go look at information out there, right? So there's a way to search this information out by searching on the map, and you can do it. Or very simply, you can just say, the heck with all this stuff. You know what? I know I'm going to go visit this company called Quenex in Laplace, Louisiana. I'm going to start taking a look at everything out there. Oh, by the way, in this case, first, I'm going to go take a look at the account called Quenex, right? So there's different ways to search this information. And again, because of the spaghetti chart of data silos that I showed you earlier on the PowerPoint, you'd be surprised to learn that almost nobody has a single source of truth that they can easily visually see what's going on in the install base, right? In this case, as a key account manager, I will see, broadly speaking, what Quenex Communications is doing. I can see they have 14 different locations. Hey, the 5-year total recurring revenue in parts and services gone down. That's not a good thing. As a key account manager, I need to bring that up. But I have a $2.2 million open opportunity value. So even if I get 10% of it, it's a pretty hefty jump from what I see out here. So let me see what this information is out there. So we have the ability to build what we call a digital thread, or in this case, an account 360 that shows everything that Quinnex has done with me. In this case, I'm seeing the equipment they bought from me, what parts they have, what service they have, what contracts that might be enforced, any warranties that are still active, and so on and so forth. So I'm able to see in one shot, before I go talk to the people at Quinnex, what all they have. And this use case sounds trivial, but it's important. We have another company, a large pump manufacturer, who tells us routinely that their salespeople and account managers, first thing they do before going to visit a customer is go to this account 360 to be able to see everything that customer's done with them. And what they tell us is interesting. They wind up knowing more about everything that they've done with the customer than the customer themselves know what they've bought from them, right? So it's interesting. So if I go to visit, as an Acme Inc. manufacturer, if I go to visit a company, say Beta Inc., right? If I'm able to tell my customer at Beta that, hey, you bought these 20 different pumps from me, here's the different services you got, here's all the parts you bought from me over the last few years, that starts building credibility and building confidence in this notion of data-driven predictive recommendation. So people can do that. People can start looking at this information at the highest level. Or people can say, you know what, that's great to know what Quinnex has done. I now want to see what I'm going to go experience at Laplace, Louisiana, which is a particular location in New Orleans. You know what? This digital thread you now see is what we call a location 360, which is the same as the account 360, except at the specific location level. Now, those eagle-eyed amongst you may notice that this little propensity to buy score showed up here. We have built the algorithms behind the scenes to analyze the transaction data, not just at Laplace, Louisiana, but compared to everybody else in that customer base. We do things like recency, frequency, monetary value, consistency, and so on and so forth, putting it all together in a score that says, you know what, the guys in Laplace, Louisiana, the customers in Laplace, Louisiana, are more apt or more probable to buy our stuff than not in the next 90 days. These scores are typically in a horizon of like 90 days. We can extend the horizon, the score goes up because, if at 3 months is 95% possibility of them buying it, the odds are high they'll buy it in 6 months as well, right? So that's kind of how these scores work. This landing dashboard looks similar but different, but now it starts talking revenue trends. In this particular instance, we show you the equipment they bought. And as you start going through this, we'll start seeing the opportunities that exist today for me to be able to sell more stuff to them, right? And you walk through this digital thread, it shows you something very similar. In this case, as equipment that you bought. I can click into the highlighted hyperlink, if you may, and it gets you more details on the equipment that they bought from me. These are what I would call the demographic information about the equipment, which is, what product line it is, the part number, the equipment item number, there'll be a serial number, there's a warranty expiry date. These are all the bits of information that are important to customer service, customer-facing people in any company, right? There's about 20 different fields out here. We can extend this another 25, 30 more fields. So we can do a lot more out here than you see out here, right? So I can go back to this particular location. And then the last thing people do once they start taking a look at this information is saying, okay, that's all well and good. I understand the lay of the land. I know what they've bought from me. I know what service events are going on. But let me see what opportunities exist, right? At the end of the day, as sales and service people, you want to go do something with your customer. You want to propose something to them. You want to sell them something, or more importantly, make sure you understand that there's opportunities out there. So in this particular tab, the opportunity tab, I'm now showing you specifically to Quinnex Communications in Laplace, Louisiana, all the different things you can do with it, right? We have an ability to show 22 different opportunities in Laplace, that everything comes from a predicted parts opportunity. So the intellectual property we have in terms of the Entytle intelligence platform also does artificial intelligence, machine learning based opportunity creation, which is to say that we parse through the data, we analyze it automatically, and we train the models to identify part replacement rates, consumable consumption rates, service intervals, and so on and so forth. So once this platform is built, once the analytics start running automatically, it starts creating these opportunities, like the predictive parts opportunity out here for Quinnex Communications, or there's things called pipelines, which is a fancy way to say user-defined queries, Boolean logic, if you may, in terms of how to build these things. And we're able to pull all these opportunities on a single page. Again, this sounds trivial, but most companies don't have automated opportunity generation. It's typically reactive opportunities that are coming in. And so we're able to start building all these things together in a way that gives an account manager, a salesperson, service person, a breadth of all this information that's available out there. In this case, the predicted opportunities, which is basically taking the data, analyzing it automatically and saying, look, based on the equipment that Quinnex has bought from me over the years, based on similar customers, we think they should be buying 1 lamp and 3 containers worth 500 plus 300, so about $800, because we believe that there's an opportunity based on behavior of similar customers, right? And based on the behavior of similar customers is important because at the end, every customer is different, but customers in similar use cases, similar industries, similar product lines have similar wear rates, similar service rates, and so on and so forth. So fundamentally, what we've built behind the scenes is the ability to analyze the data by different cohorts or segments and start looking for people who are different from that, right? So in a particular segment of behavior, that is a high-intensity segment or pharmaceutical segment or refining segment and so on and so forth, we should expect certain kinds of behavior from the customer in terms of service, parts, consumables. We look for that. And any deviation from those behaviors is what we flag as an opportunity. So in this case, we think that these guys are 6 months overdue for buying a lamp and 1 year overdue for buying containers, right? And that's the kind of opportunity generation that our customers find very useful. Because to do this, it takes an entire spaghetti chart that you saw earlier, not just the mess of data, but the convoluted, tedious process to go analyze this information and come up with these opportunities. So the intent out here is to make the lives of the sales and service people really easy and build it in a way that it just automatically shows up out here. So these are the 3 ways our customers use it. There's additional information out here in terms of the accounts. There's user-defined pipelines, as we call it, which is a way to query this data differently. So you may say, I want to look for everybody who has bought an Aquamate 20, but is not, and has bought these 3 parts, but has never done service with me, right? Because there are some unique use cases around those that our customers find helpful. And eventually, depending on who you are and what territory you have, we have this notion of an opportunity list. So if you imagine either the user pipelines, automated pipelines, or synchronized pipelines coming in from your CRMs, they all show up in one place for the customer, right? And so if you're a salesperson, a service person, all you need to do is log into this platform, take a look at an opportunity list. In my case, since I'm the national manager, I'm seeing 96,000 records, which means there's way too much stuff in there. I then need to start figuring out by source. I can take a look at this and say, you know what, I want to take a look at all the Entytle service contracts. I want to user-generated pipelines. There's different ways I can isolate these things and kind of build it in a way that becomes easy for my salespeople and service people to execute against, right? So there's many, many different ways to automate this process. But the core message to you is that the tedium, the laborious effort that you need to go through typically to take data, make sense of it, analyze it, are the days you don't need to worry about those anymore. We have now automated this entire process. So with that, DJ and JW, I'm going to stop the demo and I'll be open for questions. We have about 6 minutes left before the event finishes today.
Thank you so much, Vivek. That was insightful. I think I have a couple of questions that came in. This question is about the adaptability of the platform. Basically, they're asking, how does the platform adapt if there are changes in our product offerings or business strategies?
So what's interesting about this platform is if you think of a traditional analytical approach, there's a one-time look at the data. There's a one-time analysis. So we do 2 things that are unique out here. We do a historical look back and bring in as much information as you can historically the day we implement this system. But we're also updating this information continuously to keep making sure it's refreshed with all the latest changes coming through your customers' history with you, customers' transactions with you, and customers' activity with you, right? So we're able to pull all this together. And so as and when you introduce new products, that new data comes in. As and when you introduce new services or parts, that data comes in. And we're able to kind of pull that in as part of your overall recommendation list. Hopefully that answers your question, DJ.
Yep, it does. This is a more sublime one. How does a platform enhance customer engagement strategy?
So what I always tell people is, we've got to the point where we've lost market share and wallet share because you've not proactively paid attention to your customer. But when you think about a reactive business, the only people who are going to come to you who are going to say, I want to do some business with Acme Inc. By definition, they're self-selected, loyal customers of yours, but there's a whole cadre of customers who don't interact with you, who don't transact with you. The beauty of this proactive based approach is the fact that you're now not just touching your top customers or people who come back to you, but all the others that you've not touched before. And so the idea is to make sure that once you start this engine about proactive reaching out to them, proactively talking to them, asking them questions, selling them, proposing different opportunities to them, they will start getting used to you over time. And over time, when they start recognizing that, Acme Inc. really cares about what we have, cares about what they've sold us, cares about the state of the equipment we have, they will then start getting a better perspective on you as a provider, and the experience starts improving. So we've seen that time and time again where our customers tell us is that one side benefit is once you start looking at this proactive approach, their loyalty scores start going up because more and more customers buy frequently, buy consistently from them, and buy more from them. And they all can also tie back NPS scores and Net Promoter scores to that as well. So a combination of all these activities really changes the customer experience and customer behavior over time as well, DJ.
Awesome. And I think we have time for just one more. So this one is, it just says it's a pricing strategy done by user. I'm assuming the question is, does the tool define pricing? And since I know the answer to it, or does the tool provide the data that helps with pricing?
I think it's the latter. We don't provide pricing recommendations. The pricing you saw in their opportunity is just historical price data for that customer, right? We're not a pricing analytics engine. We'll just pull in the price from different transactions and display it for you. But you can use that information based on the volumes you're seeing, volume drop-offs, volume increases, to kind of determine your pricing strategy as well. So I think the answer is the latter more than the former.
All right, Vivek, that's great. I think those are the questions that came in.
Awesome. Well, from our side, from Entytle side, thank you very much for all of you for dialing in today. These are a continuing series of webinars we do to answer specific questions, to highlight specific problems our customers face, or the market's looking at, and some solutions we have to bring to the party. So again, thank you very much for that and appreciate your time today. Good evening, good day, and good night. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.